All right. So we're calling the November meeting of the Barnstable Water Supply Board to order. This meeting is being recorded and broadcast on the Town of Barnstable's Government Access Channel in accordance with the Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 20. The chair must inquire whether anyone else is recording this meeting, and if so, to please make their presence known. This meeting will be replayed via Xfinity Channel 8 or on high definition channel 1072. It may also be accessed via the Government Access live video on demand on the archives of the Town of Barnstable website. There is, go on the town website, you will find a link there. All right. Sorry about that. First up, approval of the agenda. Does anybody have anything they wish to add to the agenda? All right, not hearing any. Is there a motion to approve the agenda? So motion. Second. Oh, you're on mute, Louise. Okay. All right, Louise is seconded. All in favor?
I'll second it. Yep.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
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 All right. Next up, approval of the minutes from the previous meeting. Anyone have any edits?
No.
All right, not hearing any. I'll go ahead and motion to approve the minutes. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Louise. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, Kevin, you're up. Operations report.
All righty. Excuse me. We'll start on Wednesday, the 2nd of October. Our emergency contractor, Bordelati Construction, was in town to replace an adult hydrant from the list of 10 for the year. Hydrant H71 located at 577 Main Street. It was an old 1949 Eddy that was well past its expiration date. A new Mueller fire hydrant was installed and flushed, placed back into service. This completed the second of 10 hydrants to be replaced this year. The third, Thursday, when staff was out and about, they noticed what appeared to be a leak of some kind located at 130 North Street. Upon further investigation, it was discovered that a valve in the irrigation box in the front lawn had let go and was causing a leak to run into the street. Property management people were notified and they shut the service off and made the necessary repairs. Friday the 4th, Veolia staff were called out to 488 South Street for another report of a leak on the property. This leak was found and confirmed to be on the service to the Roadhouse Cafe. The leak was between the curb shutoff and the building, and it was the responsibility of the business owner to have the service repaired. They were notified, given the proper information for them to make a quick repair. Monday, October 7th, Bevel Aqua Construction were on site at 1929 Beerses Road to perform 2 separate cut and caps at the water main. They abandoned 2 older 1-inch services in preparation for the new services coming soon. Wednesday, October 9th, a contractor was on site at 597 Main Street to install a new service and meter pit. They installed the new pit, ran the new service from the pit all the way to the building, and Veolia staff inspected the work and gave their approval. Tuesday, October 15th, was a day for sure. We started with the complete shutdown of the Mayer treatment plant for many reasons. The first of the reasons was our annual check of the green sand filters. They're responsible for filtering the iron and manganese from the drinking water. We have Hungerford and Terry as the contractor. They come in and they pull core samples, and then they send them to a lab for analysis to ensure that they are doing what they're supposed to be doing. Next up, we had our storage tank cleaners in to perform, the cleaning of the Mayer treatment plant clear well and the inner and outer water storage tanks. They were all drained prior to the arrival of these contractors to avoid as little downtime and to ensure they all get 3 of these cleaned and inspected in as short a window as possible. And to round out the work for this day, we also had the Trojan UV staff alongside Veolia, working on the UV reactors, treatment process for 1,4-dioxane. Several different issues were identified and corrected. We also use this as a good teachable moment for a lot of the new staff that we have, and to try and get them trained up so we don't have to keep hiring Trojan to come out and do this, and we can take care of it in-house. The 15th, Veolia staff, under the direction of the town, were at the property of 142 Pitchers Way. As much as we dislike having to shut people off for non-payment, sometimes our hands are forced to do so. In this case, we believe the property owner was turning the water back on when we weren't around. So the decision was made to put a manual lock over the curb box, and this was denying any access to be able to turn it back on. And there's a picture on the other side of the report. It shows put a phone number on it and then call. It's a pretty handy contraption. So Wednesday, the 23rd, Veolia staff were on site at 1040 Iana Road for another report of water in the entrance to the Toyota dealership. Border Lottie was called in to make repairs. It was an 1.5-inch service. Replaced the curb stop valve. The repairs were made at the service, was turned back on to the business. Friday, October 25th, we started to drain the Mary Dunn 2, which is the large tank, in preparation for our tank cleaning contractors to come in on Monday to perform the cleaning and inspection of that tank. This is the third of 5 slated to be cleaned and inspected this fall. Throughout the week, we also dedicated some staff and time to making sure everything was tidy and organized as we could to make it to prepare for the open house for the Mayor treatment plant. This is an exciting event for us in the town, and we look forward to hearing about any feedback on the condition of the plant and its surroundings. Monday, the 28th, we had our contractor back in to perform the cleaning and inspection of the Mary Dunn large tank. They did the cleaning and the inspection, did not identify any major issues at this time. When they wrapped up the cleaning and inspection, we then started to refill the tank slowly, took a couple samples before it's deemed to be put back into service. And let's see, on the 29th, our contractor, Border Lottie, was back in to replace another hydrant, also from the adult list. This one was H59, is located at 88 Lincoln Ave. This hydrant had also stood the test of time, but it was also ready for retirement. The old hydrant was removed, replaced with a new one, and the same procedures are followed to put it back into service. In 31st, Halloween, we received results from the samples that were taken from the Mary Dunn large tank, and they were all good. In timely fashion, we got that tank back into service, and everything was good to go up at the Mary Dunn tank facility. So first picture, we have one of ours and one of yours celebrating our open house. And the curb box lock that they had talked about from the report. And then just a good team pick of the Veolia staff. We are definitely picking up the pace on deliverables. We did 125 meters last month. AWWAs are still down low, but we'll pick up those. We do a lot of those during flushing season. Hydrants are all painted for the fall, which is right on task where we wanted to be. And that's about all I got for you.
Yeah, I mean, looking good. You got 4 hydrants replaced already, so.
Yep. So we're right on track with that too. We try not to do them in the coldest of the months,
Makes
for
sense.
for many reasons, but especially for the contractors, not to be out in the middle of ice and snow if we ever get any. So
Yeah. Looks like pumping's still down despite the drought. I mean, it's up a little bit from the summer, but.
yeah, I mean, even like historically, it's it's like 5% above what it was last year. So I think that's pretty good as far as being on par.
Yeah. And so also thank you guys for getting everything set up for those tours. I think they were a good success. We'll talk more later on this meeting about that, how those went.
Okay,
Yeah, but it sounds like you guys had a very, very busy month.
very.
Yes, it seems it.
October and November usually are packed solid.
Yeah. Yeah. That's all I have. Does anyone else have anything, any questions? Louise, Tim?
No? As usual, you guys have done, you've done well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We
Thank you.
appreciate it.
I'm glad you do. We appreciate the support.
Yeah. All right. Well, in that case, I guess we will move on. Thank you, Kevin. All right, next
Thanks,
up,
everyone.
Matt and Tyler. Capital projects.
Hey Tyler, didn't know if you guys saw me on. I was able to attend today. I was supposed to be out with MCPPO training, but stuff moves at the speed of light in town, so the check did not make it up there, and I'm attending the December course. That being said, I'm happy to hop on for the remaining projects and then let Tyler update you guys on Mary Dunn 4. Let me just pull up my screen share.
Thanks, Matt.
No problem. As much as I'm sure that you were really excited to go through all of them and do all the talking, it's a lot of fun. So that being said, hopping into project number 1, the new well exploration project, phase 4, under the leadership of Mike 2. This project continues to be on hold from last month's meeting. We're still working through all of the background issues on that project, so everything's on hold until further notice.
Yep.
The pilot testing project and Mary Dunn Airport well test reports. We're working with Kleinfelder still to get the executive summary changes updated for that pilot testing report. We've asked them to update pricing to reflect the year 2024, and as we're working through everything with the straightway and lead service line projects with their office, this has taken a backseat for the moment while we work through kind of the heavy portions on those 2 projects. So at this point in time, we're waiting on those updates to the report, but nothing as of this month from last month. Item number 3 is the new straightway water treatment facility and the Hyannisport and Simmons Pond replacement project. We're continuing to work through the 60% design review and comments in the updates to the plan related to those 2 reviews. Kleinfelder is kind of handling those plan revisions at the same time that they're preparing applications to submit with conservation and building departments for notice of intent filing with conservation and site plan review with town of Barnstable building department. They are targeting right now submissions to the site plan review committee, hopefully by tomorrow, to be able to attend the 12/3 meeting for the project. That'll be the first part of at least 2 separate meetings, one being informal site plan review. And if the committee is satisfied with the plans as they sit, then they'll move into a formal site plan review afterwards. The notice of intent, we hope to file for that by the first week of December, with the intent to sit on the 12/17 Conservation Commission hearing and present the project for a notice of intent filing with that. The other major change that we have on the project is that Kleinfelder has finally received back the 60% design cost estimate from their third-party consultant. They're currently reviewing that internally, and we're working on reviewing the final document. It was about 80 pages worth of total cost estimates. So we're weeding through it to figure out what the bottom line changes are, but we want to make sure that we have a firm understanding of what's going on with that before we come back with you guys with the numbers. That being said, we just got that back yesterday afternoon, so our hope is that we'll have something for you by next meeting. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you guys may have related to that. Okay. So item number 4 is the lead service line inventory and replacement program. Depending on who you're in touch with in town, you may have been hearing a little bit more about this project than usual lately. We actually just submitted mailed out some customer notification letters as required by EPA to any customers who have service lines that were identified as having either unknown materials or galvanized pipes requiring replacement were the 2 categories that we were required to notify. There are 3 total pools that customers could have potentially received notifications on. The third being lead service lines, and I can happily say that we did not uncover any of those in our inventory during record review process. There were, if memory serves right, 2 lead service lines, I believe, on the Cedar Street neighborhood that were uncovered by Veolia staff, but those were replaced same day that they were found. So we didn't end up including them in the inventory, being that we didn't have lead service lines anymore at that point. The galvanized requiring replacements essentially are going to be developed into a replacement plan to get those service lines pulled out of the system, at least the town-owned portions. Customer portions will be working with those customers to let them know that it would probably be in their best interest for them to arrange for that work to be done.
How many are we talking about, do we think, for galvanized?
I can give you some email. I can give you guys an email with the exact numbers. I don't have them available in front of me right now. I want to say it was 3,300 total mailings, but a lot of those were unknown service lines based on our records. I believe it was like 89 or 90 galvanized services that we have to replace. So a good chunk of the mailings had to do with service lines where we have records of them, but they don't indicate the pipe material that our customer service lines are constructed of. So EPA wants us to be more cautious than not and let them know that there's a potential for lead because of that.
Okay, 2 quick questions. So it sounds like we really only have maybe 100 lines of potential worry.
Essentially, this is more of being a good steward with public health. If you can't rule it out with certainty, then it's in their best interest to scare them, but in a way that's supposed to be protecting their health.
Yeah. Oh, understandable. Have we had any, and this may be over Han's question to bring him in, have we had any people call and ask about this? What's been the public response so far?
Actually, there's quite some response. We have about, I would say between 15 and 20 calls a day with people asking and concerned about the mailers we got. Okay, so which is doable for us. Our front end staff was briefed. Matt provided them with a Q&A.
Right.
We provided them with a lot of information. They know how to answer it. So we're working through it. And most people are very friendly. They are just worried, and they have questions that the staff up front is trained to answer. So I think we can handle it. We've heard other water systems all over the country, because this is a federal program, and these are federal deadlines. Everybody right now is dealing with that. The other thing is a point of caution, Sam. When you say that, oh, we may be only talking about 100, galvanized needing replacement type of service lines, that is hopefully the case, but not necessarily, because
absolutely
the majority of the mailers that went out are focused on customers where the service line material is unknown. So I would love to I would love to assume that all of those are good or safe materials, but we really don't know till we have the answer. So that is why we, in the coming couple of months and a year time frame, will pursue that, so we do have the answer, and then we can formulate more comprehensively a plan. How many are we really talking about? How we're going to handle this? is there support or grants from the federal government? Who the heck knows? And so we still have a bunch of homework to do, but Matt has done a real good job on pushing forward, and we met all the regulatory deadlines, so that's a good thing. It's just now getting to the end result, and we're not there yet, but we're getting there. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'm glad that you already answered my next question with kind of what's the next step, so thank you. Sorry to take that on a complete sidetrack on you there, Matt.
No, you're totally fine. I was more than anticipating that question, and really, I can echo what Hans has said. I've taken about 7 calls or so between yesterday and today, with our front office staff over at DPW, kind of passing along the same information. Hey, we've got customers who are concerned. Can you answer some of their questions? So I can basically reiterate, Hans. They've been generally friendly, kind of cautious, but
Understand.
overall just wanting to be educated.
Have we had any people call with a kind of confrontational attitude towards this? Any kind of
Somewhat, but it was mainly the only way that I would really phrase it as confrontational is just this is going to be difficult for homeowners. It's going to be a high cost for them.
Yeah.
And what I kind of reiterated in that situation is, unfortunately, because it's within their own private water line, and we're not sure where things are going with this just yet. Yes, you are potentially going to be at liability for replacing your water service, but it's also not being mandated by the town or EPA. This is just more or less in their best interest. If they know that they have a galvanized line to replace it, their portion.
Yep.
And Hyannis water system will be replacing the portions that we own.
Perfect response.
Yep. And we're going to be rolling out, as part of what I was going to read through next with the update, we're working on getting some website changes done similar to the PFAS landing page that was done on the Water Supply Division homepage. This essentially will be kind of the hub of where we're going to locate anything related to the lead service line inventory project. It'll also include the informational links to the lead copper rule revisions, which kind of necessitated the project in the first place. Somebody wants to get into all the legal language. And then it'll also include any of the outreach materials that we've done to date and additional resources from Mass DEP and EPA as far as how does lead in general get into drinking water and what they can do around their house if they have particular concerns.
Okay.
And then the last update that I have related to the project is just that we received this week also some screenshots of the interactive GIS website that we had kind of mentioned to you guys a couple weeks ago. Kleinfelder has been working on getting that fleshed out, uploading all the information that we were able to collect from the inventory development, and basically gave us some printout deliverables of what the screens that the customers would interact with, informational pages that they could select, and how they'd be able to go about looking up their service line, the materials of the public and private side, and just an additional tool that customers can use that might be a little bit more friendly than the massive inventory booklet that is their current review source.
With that, is there going to be a way with that website to, someone goes, I have an unknown. It looks like I have an unknown. I want to know, for them, like instructions like we did in the initial phasing of, well, here's how you test, and then how they can report it to us?
I would think that that's something that we want to roll out if we haven't already been working on that. Well, go for it, Hans, by all means.
Oh, actually, I just before this meeting, I had a conversation with the front office staff, and they already talked to me and said, "Oh, we just refer to the website where they can fill out the form." Actually, it's the form that we talked about 1 or 2 months ago, and that will help us, reduce the unknown tremendously.
Great.
So I think the mechanisms are in place, and I think it's going to work out okay long term.
Great.
Sam, that link was also provided on that unknown service letter that we sent out this past Friday. If you look on the flip side of that that pamphlet, it includes instructions to get to that link. So the hope is that we're going to see a good amount of response, and anybody calling, particularly concerned about the unknown material ends, we're
Yep.
directing them towards that website.
Great. That's good to hear. Hopefully that, as I said, hopefully that will have that outcome.
That's our hope. So I'd be happy to answer any other questions you guys may have related to that project, but that's what I have for updates over the last month on this. Perfect.
I don't have anything.
Moving into item number 5, this is the Route 28 and Yarmouth Road intersection project with Mass DOT. This is a project managed by Mike too. The water service curb stop at Yarmouth Road and Camp Street. Those locations are scheduled for after Thanksgiving. This is going to be completed as night work. We have been lining up our third-party inspector, and that's now been done, which is why we finally have a firm schedule on this. And we're also requesting the water as-built for the remaining portions of the project be provided by the state so we can update our GIS systems accordingly and the remainder of our records. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. Okay. Next is the Route 28 East Sewer Expansion Project and Water Main Project managed by Mike. No updates from the last meeting on this project. We're really in the closeout stages of it, so I'm not anticipating much more movement related to that project.
Okay. Great.
But item number 7, we have the Ocean Street Water Main Project. Since this was last spoken about, this is a project managed by both Mike 2, related to the waterwork, and Paul Graves with DPW Engineering, who's managing the remaining portions of the project. They have awarded the work to Dirtworks, and work has started on Gosnold Street. They're planning on completing the water main work related to the project during the winter months. So finally, some movement on that.
As someone who drives past all the curb work they're doing, I'm glad to see this project rolling.
I know it felt like it was never going to happen for a little while there, so I'm happy to hear too. I'll turn it over here to Tyler for his updates on Mary Dunn.
Good evening, members of the board. Mary Dunn, as we talked about last month, is off and running, and we had an eventful day. Our day started about 5:50 with calls from BPD of a collapsed trench. Winston Builders, the contractor, had trenched across Mary Dunn, leaving a ramp system in place overnight so that they could pour the concrete today for the duck bank. That collapsed in the early morning hours.
Oh.
It's a lot of heavy traffic on that road. It's a lot of box trucks, a lot of 16-wheelers. Thankfully, no injuries, no damage, as far as I've heard from both BPD or Winston Builders. And then when on site, found that they had learned that they had torn a Verizon cable apart, and Verizon was on site as the Verizon led to the airport. So that strike was yesterday in the morning. So I had a conversation with them about utility strikes and that they should be contacting people. So we had a little bit of a, for all intents and purposes, things are fine. But it was a good chance to have some conversations this morning. So pay rec number 3 has been approved. And I think has been working through the town and payment. Change order number 1 is on Markel's desk for signature. That is for the overage in the security system cost, the allowance, versus what the contractor came back to us with. That constituted roughly a $8,300 or $8,500 change order. We are in the process of working up change order number 2, which includes the emergency shower and the changes to the containment for the generator pad. So this is an imbiber bead system that they swell when they come in contact with hydrocarbons. So it allows the generator sits in the middle of this, and then there's a kind of concrete containment outside of it that if there is a break, if there's diesel that gets out, motor oil, something like that, breaks free from the generator, it hits this containment pad, flows to a low point, and then the imbiber beads swell and lock it in place, basically.
But it still lets water through.
Exactly.
That's
Clever.
crazy cool.
Yeah, it's a clever system. So I do have some milestones for the board. We got a long-term schedule for the project. And just a couple of high notes would be the big one is the building delivery. That'll be happening mid-March. They're calling for March 17th to March 21st. I know, I was pretty excited to get that news too. So fingers crossed. The pump will be set later that month, and then they'll spend time wiring up and plumbing up the building. So they're looking at wrapping up the building electrical by the end of April. And so we're looking to have startup, according to their schedule, they're looking to have startup in May. And then taking about almost the month of May to get all that sorted out. So they are staying that startup will end about the end of May, just before June.
Yeah.
And they're talking to their one of their operators this morning. I think they're happy to get that done because they have a lot of other projects they need to get to. So
Good.
if they get us finished and we get through, it'll be great.
Awesome.
I think that's the only notes I have for the board today. Any questions from anyone?
No.
All right. Oh, Hans.
Oh, Hans.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on the imbiber beads, containment system. It is basically the same mechanism that was designed for the Vineyard Wind electrical transformers. So similar system, and it's also was also designed for the electric substation containment area around the existing transformers there. It basically was developed about 10, 15 years ago through the lawsuits that the town of Barnstable brought against, what was it, Eversource, to basically push them to do secondary containment. So it's actually something pretty cool. You're right, Sam, and it's actually working. So that's nice to know.
Yeah.
All right. And with that, no other questions. Thank you for your time, everyone.
Thanks, Tyler.
Thank you, Matt.
All right. Item number 9, we have the 16-inch transmission main project for the Mary Dunn water main. This is done with H2 Olson. I have not had a chance to get into this project over the last month. I'm sorry to say again. I've been working on a couple of other items and was not able to complete my couple of reviews on this. So hopefully now that we've gotten through the 60% design review, submittal review, I'll have some time this month to give you guys something next month. And then item number 10, the last project, Mary Dunn tank number 1 rehab. We are going to be going out to bid with that over the next couple weeks. Hans, Marcia, and I have been working to get a couple of questions answered for the finance department related to funding on the project. Just needed to really dot I's and cross T's with them to make sure that they were going to be happy. Should be able to get that done and the project out for bidding so we can get a contractor selected for next fall.
Great.
I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have on those 2 projects.
No.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much, guys. I'm going to stick on the call for a little while longer today. Just want to hear about the rate tool, but I'll drop my screen share and thank you very much.
Great. Thank you. All right. Up next, second rate meeting. So this is for Nate, primarily, just so you get a quick sense. So obviously we went through it last month, this month. Since then, I'm sorry, Aiden and I think, and also Eric, we all met, went through the rate models, ran some things. You guys further refined it. We have some different scenarios I think we want to talk through. So think it'd be best to let you guys present those scenarios to us, and then we as a board can talk through them and answer questions and stuff, and talk about potential additional changes we might need to make.
Absolutely. Thanks, Sam. It's nice to see everyone virtually. I was unfortunately not able to be in two places in one time last month, but I heard Eden did a good job. So
Thank you.
yeah, we're gonna go through the rate tool again. We met with Sam and Hans and got some better numbers in there, more realistic. And again, as a reminder, we're doing our best to forecast. We've been doing this each year, so we're keeping up with trends and keeping up with budgets and the cost of capital. So as a reminder, the way our model works is just inputting all of your operating budget data, debt service, capital projects, and funding for those capital projects, and of course your customer data, and lining all those up and forecasting rate needs to make sure we maintain cash flow and fund balance stability. So with that, I'll hand it over to Aiden to go through some of the changes that have happened since the previous meeting, and some of the scenarios that Sam mentioned relative to key drivers of rate impacts.
Go. You can all see that, correct?
Yep.
So last time I was here in last iteration of this model, the rate increases that we were looking at were a little closer to 7% in a couple of years. But as you can see, and as I'll go through shortly, that has changed because of a few significant changes to the model. The reason that the 7% exists in the first place, which was a little different than previous iterations of the model in previous years, is largely being driven based off of shift in demand. So demand seemed to come back down towards a more historical level versus the previous years, 2022, 2023, which were drought years with slightly higher demand. And the percentage shift was actually close to 10%, which results in around $600,000 a year in lost revenue as a result of that 10% demand decrease. So because of that, going into the previous meeting that we had, the model showed a couple of years with 7% changes. Now we've looked through a couple of different scenarios based off of some additional information that we have now, and the changes look slightly different. So since the last meeting that we had, sorry, this is giving me a little trouble moving tabs. Here, I'll come this way. Since the last meeting that we had, one of the more significant changes that happened was a new estimate for the Hyannisport, Simmons Pond, and Straightaway Wells treatment plants, which resulted in a new number of $46.5 million now in the CIP. I believe that's $6 million or $7 million higher than it was in the previous.
Aiden, Hans is trying to jump in.
Yeah, I just want to kind of clarify, Aiden, that when we talked before, we know that there's an increase in cost for the Straightway treatment plant. When we talked, we guesstimated it would be about $11 million more. But right now, and that estimate, cost estimate, is still under review with DPW. We don't know if it's $11 million or a little bit more. So take it with a grain of salt. It's a guesstimate for now, but whatever it is somewhere in the ballpark. It might be, the real estimate might be a little bit higher. We don't know yet. It's still, for the board, good to see that we're trying to plan ahead. So I would say proceed with the 11 million extra, but keep in mind that that number might be a little bit higher or the same. I don't know yet. Okay.
And Hans, my understanding is that 35.5 has already been approved.
Yeah, it's
And
appropriate. Yes.
It's appropriated, so that's why they're separated there. We know the 35.5 is appropriated. It's that additional 11 that we're modeling right now, and we can see that additional right there.
Yes, so bear in mind that the 11 is a guess. Now we have a better number, but we still need to review the details before we can finalize it and, officially tell it to the board, okay? So keep the 11 mil extra as a placeholder for now. At least principally, it will give you an idea how we are trying to deal with this.
So in addition to this new estimated number here, one of the items that we discussed as well was the addition of the 3M PFAS settlement. So the 3M PFAS settlement money that what is currently forecasted at $6 million is included in this model, and that is in scenario 1. And we took a look at 3 different scenarios modeling the impact of how the 3M money would potentially shift rates depending on how it's spent or if it exists at all. So in this scenario 1, the 3M lawsuit money coming in 2025, or estimated in 2025 at $6 million, is used to shift $6 million of potential bond issuances for the pipe replacement and upgrades over the course of 2026 to 2029 to cash payments, pay-go payments out of that 3M lawsuit money. And with that being one of the only significant changes to the model outside of the treatment plant estimates increased, the resulting rates under this scenario would be able to drop around a percentage. Yes, Sam?
Yeah, we also played with kind of the long-term look at rates, because what we're facing is this issue, that dip in 32 to 35 in the model. And that's where we're having our issues in this model as we went through it. And so we started adding, we were at 3% rates, I think, back originally in the model. And we're now pushing some of those future rates higher.
Mm-hmm.
And to keep them in line with what they've been.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, I think long term, because of that consumption shift back to a more historical normal, it pushed those future rates up, right? Because like you said, we were at 3%, but that was at a very high demand forecast relative to the last 3 years. So that definitely had an impact there as well. Not just the short term, the initial revenue impact, but the long term revenue impact of bringing that forecast down. So you're right. Not only are the short term 3 to 5 years rates different, so are the longer term rates.
Yeah.
Now, this was the first scenario that we ended up looking at, which was the inclusion of that 3M money. We took a look at 2 other scenarios, one in which we did not include any 3M money at all, and that would just contain the increased cost. And then if we use the 3M money for other purposes. So I will shift to the second scenario. Here we go. And the second scenario, specifically these 2 graphs up top, are going to show the impact of not having that $6 million influx of cash from the 3M lawsuit. And with the most recent changes to the model, including the treatment plant estimates, the resulting rates that would be needed to sustain the free cash on this side above 4 months for most of the length of the model would be 7% across the board for an extended period of time. The third scenario that we looked at was if we were to use the 3M lawsuit money to pay for a portion of the potential additional estimated money needed for the treatment plants. So there would be a $6 million cash payment in the year that we would be issuing SRF loans for a portion of that treatment plant money. you'll see that the resulting rate increases required are slightly higher than necessary in scenario 1, that being because the SRF loan terms and interest rates are slightly more favorable than the estimated bond interest rates for the pipe replacement costs, suggesting that it would be better to use the 3M money for the pipe replacements in that same time period.
Yep. Mark, do you mind jumping in for a second? Just maybe giving us 10 words that can explain what we're basically arbitraging there on our debt.
Yeah, I mean, avoiding additional interest costs on the loan by using the settlement revenue to basically buy down that loan will save you future borrowing costs.
Yeah.
So
What I think is part of it, we were kind of between scenario 1 and scenario 3, we're spending the money in one case on replacing pipe replacement. I think that's municipal bonds, which what do we pay for a rate, generally speaking, on those?
you were right now where our last issuance was about 3.5% for a 20-year loan on average.
And then what's the borrowing rate on SRF debt? Right now?
SRF were 1.5% because we're a housing choice community for 20 years.
Okay. So basically we're saving 1.5% by using that cash to pay for pipe replacement, not technically for a treatment plant, and basically saying, hey, we can reduce some of that interest expense by 2%, excuse me.
Yeah, yes, that's correct. Yeah, because typically the pipe replacement program does not qualify for SRF financing.
Yep.
That's been our experience. But yeah, we do project that the interest rates may decrease slightly with the way the economy is going now. But the other thing to take a look at in this model, and thank you for sharing this afternoon, Hans. I would like to just have a moment to review it and then get in touch with Adam and Eric and you to talk about some of the items that I've noticed in here that we may be able to tweak to get the rates down a little bit further. One of them being the SRF financing. We're limited to the amount of money that we can borrow from the SRF in a given year. And so we'll probably have to split that borrowing from the SRF for the Straightway project over a couple of years, which will allow us to stagger debt issuance on that project, which may help us get the rate down a little bit. But I'll take a look.
Great.
I'll take a look at some of the. I know some other things in the model too that I'd like to investigate a little bit further, and I can work with Eric and Adam and Hans to make some adjustments to see if we can accomplish a decrease in the projected rates.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mark.
Mark, I want to, or Sam, basically, I wanted to add to that too, is that we have an additional possible benefit, but Mark, you probably know this better, is with SRF, there is a possibility for principal forgiveness, especially because this is a PFAS project.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a good point.
So the bigger the chunk of money we have for this principal forgiveness, because most of the time that goes with percentages, right, Mark? The bigger the benefit for us. So that was one thing. The other thing related, but that's more related to the drop in water use, Eric, I would like you to dig down a little bit to explain the difference between the water use on the commercial side, how that kept on increasing, and residential, where you definitely see the drought impact, because I thought it was pretty significant.
Absolutely. Aiden has it pulled up here. So we do look at your demand profile by class and by rate classification within those classes. So you can see here the consumption levels in the 3 residential tiers. Going back, you can look at our actual 2019, about 51 million units. That rose to over 65 almost 66 million units over the course of the 2019 to 2023 period, and that's what dropped back down to about 52 and a half. So that right there is where the decrease is. You can also see the two lines below that, commercial usage. You have both commercial customers that bill quarterly and monthly. We track them separately. Both of those have seen a pretty steady increase in demand, or at least a flat demand profile over the same course of time. So that system-wide decrease is exclusively due to residential usage dropping and pulling that total system down rather than both commercial and residential.
Pray
Thank
you.
for our finances.
That's right. So you can see there's the system-wide, the bottom line percent change. You know, you were seeing 7, almost 9% increase 21, 22 from that historical average. And that's where the drop of 10, almost 11% came in the actual 2024 data system-wide.
Yeah. Thank you on that. That's really important to see that, and helps tell a very interesting story of why we are where we are in terms of what we're looking at. So it looks like we're planning around trying to keep it at 5.5% this next fiscal year. No, 5% the next fiscal year, then 5.5%, and then 6.5% in 27. Depends on the model though, right? Can you go back to scenario 1 model?
Sure.
Yeah, so we're doing 5. So scenario 1's the one where we've played with that idea of using our debt to buy the cheaper debt for water treatment plants and using the cash for the more expensive debt in place of more expensive debt for pipe replacement over a few years. And as you guys can see, we'll be at a 5% going to a 5.5 to a 6.5, settling back off at 6. I think this is the model as we've talked through it. This is kind of the smart model, the playing the best financial gain to keep the rate increases as minimal as possible.
Yeah, I would say, Sam, that I 100% agree with you. The wild card here is we need to get a good handle on what the increases of the cost of building the straight treatment plant, and I would recommend holding off on a rate vote till December, so we can work through those issues. And we need to have a conversation with Mark Milne, and just tweak and fine tune the model till we all can come to a not only an understanding but also an agreement that this is probably the least worst way to move forward. Because nobody likes rate increases, but we also have a need to deal with our treatment plants.
Yep. I would agree, and I think obviously we'll have a moment in a second for questions. I think that's the way to go. Is that just in terms of let's wait a month, let's get Matt to get hard numbers, much harder numbers on what this new plant's going to cost, because we've already seen it rise 30% almost in pricing from the original expectation a year ago. And so if we're playing at 27 or 37%, like I want to know before we make a decision. But I do have a question. I know we have 2 people also missing, but Louise, do you have any questions about this? I know we've thrown things in a kind of helter-skelter matter out.
No, there's a lot to think about here, but no, this is all making sense. Makes sense. So,
Tim?
No, I think given that what we're looking at here, this is probably the best option outside of, the variables that we've already discussed.
Yeah.
If any of that changes, everything else actually, obviously changes moving forward. So,
Yeah.
but yeah.
All right. Are you guys both comfortable pushing a vote off for another month? I think it's right. I think also, especially not having two of our members here this month, I prefer to have this when it's close to, or if not full board voting.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I
And
agree
I
with
like
that.
the idea of being that much closer to a definitive um, estimate.
Yeah.
So we'll know in December.
All right. So, I mean, it sounds like the thing to do right now is for everyone to kind of look these over, study them over the next month. I know that I think we're going to meet again
Absolutely.
and we can talk and we'll make a formal vote. Does that work for you, Mark? We're not going to be running too late now, right?
Yeah, that'll be fine, Sam. Thank you, Sam.
All right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I think it sounds like we're at a good place for the moment on this. So thank you, Aiden. Thank you, Eric, for joining us, and look forward to seeing you at least once more this cycle.
Thank you for your work. Thank you.
Thank you. And
I
Absolutely, our
really
pleasure.
appreciate it.
thank you. Yeah, and thank you. I love that you guys bring a perspective outside of just our system, but what you see going on in other systems elsewhere.
Mhm.
Yes,
Yeah.
you're not the only ones we're before talking about. Well, actually, most of the time it's double-digit percent increases. So,
Thank heavens.
you know, I say it every time that we're on here. I mean, this board should be commended. If you look back in our model when we were doing, eights during, COVID 2020, you saw that cash balance got really low there, and we knew that, and we planned for it, and you've done a fantastic job doing what you need to do every year to keep the fund stable.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you again for your expertise.
Have a good evening.
You too. All right, moving on. The fall open house. So we had the fall open house a couple weeks ago now. Thank you, Louise, for coming out and helping out, and especially staying there after I had to head out a little early. And I think we had a small but very good turnout. We had maybe, handful of people for the first two tours, maybe a few more, close to 10, I think, on the last tour. Is that right, Louise?
Yeah.
I
Hans,
think
would you say we had about 18 people? Or am I being?
that sounds about right.
Somewhere between 10 and 18, I think. Well,
Yeah.
the harbor master came out with a whole crew, so that was
Great.
interesting.
That's good.
It was. But they were all, everybody who was there were interested. They walked away with a great appreciation of what everyone does. It was good. It was really good. It was definitely something I would have liked to have seen more people, but it was really well received, and people appreciated it and went away informed.
And I'd like to add, and I didn't, but I think we had some people there who were, won't go sort of call them haters, but were skeptics about our water, and we were able to actually educate, we weren't preaching to a choir here. We were able to educate some people
Exactly.
who were unsure about what this is and didn't really understand what we're doing, and I think are in a much better place now.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think that we may want to consider doing this again late spring.
Yes.
When we can tap into more of that summer population that may not be, have gone to Florida and elsewhere or off Cape for the season now.
Well, I also think for the general public, they may not understand where our facilities are and what they're doing. And so I think anytime we can educate and show them the facilities, it's positive.
Yeah. And Hans, you want to add anything?
Yeah, I basically already told Veolia they did a great job cleaning the place up and making it look good inside and
Oh,
out.
great.
And yeah, I'm happy with that. And I think it's a great idea to do it again in the spring and just make it, a more habitual event in the spring and the
Mhm.
fall. So people can kind of count on it and say, oh, yeah, let's go there this fall or this spring.
Mhm.
I agree.
And, I love talking water. So anytime. And even Nate, I showed Nate around uh, late yesterday. And Nate, what did you think after thinking about the tour?
I was very impressed, honestly, by the whole thing. Like the whole setup that you kind of like built, everything was state of the art, really cool, really cool.
Yeah.
Good. I'm glad to hear it.
Very so
Great.
far.
Awesome. All right, well, that's it for that. So we're at the end. Anything else that has not been covered already that we want to bring up? Hans, do you have anything to add? Louise, Nate, Tim? All right. Hearing nothing, is there a motion to adjourn?
A motion to adjourn.
Thank you. I will second that. All in
Okay.
favor? Aye.
Aye.
See you guys next month. Happy
Thank
Thanksgiving.
you, everyone.
Have a nice
Thank you,
day, guys.
everyone.